Swords collectors, and welcome to another Bosk's Bounty video, and welcome to episode 253 of Ask Boss Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comment section below and do my best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured in the video, be sure to leave your question in the comment section of this video. While you're down there, hit the like button if you happen to enjoy the video, subscribe if you are new. And this episode of Ask Boss Bounty is episode 253. Therefore, the featured character for this week is VC53 Bom Vimdin, who is a Cantina patron, as you can see by the name pill there. Now, this for me is one of the most underrated TVC figures out there. Okay, it has swivel hips, but man, look at the sculpting work on that head and on the body. Really, really good figure, this one. And as I said, just a little bit underrated in the line, in my opinion. And of course, when we all get our Cantinas this year, later on this year, then he's going to fit in very, very nicely indeed. With all that being said, before we get on to the first question, there was a live stream last night. It was the reveal of the March Madness bracket, which 64 characters got into that bracket. Unfortunately, I wasn't available to watch it live, but I did watch it early this morning. I ran through the whole thing, watched the guys reveal all of the characters, and it looks pretty good. It's going to be shaping up to be a pretty fun March. As always, I will be doing my live stream with John from the SWTVC, Nick, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and my buddy Chris, Toys of the Jedi. That is going to be going live on Saturday, the 1st of March, I think it is, this Saturday. We are going to be doing a live stream where we complete the bracket. I love this live stream. It's always a lot of fun, always a lot of banter between the lads. So please tune in for that if you want to see who wins our personal bracket. Of course, it's not the actual bracket, it's just our bracket. And every time there is a tie between the four of us, it goes to the chat, and the audience get to participate in voting through who they want to go through. And ultimately, by the end of the live stream, we will find out who the winner of our bracket was. Now, last year, somehow Dryden Voss won that bracket. I think Ponkrell won the actual bracket throughout March. So it's always good to tune in, and I hope you can be there, guys. All right, so moving on, we're going to get on to the first question. It's from Douglas Wallace, and he says, if Hasbro made a newly tooled young Leia from Obi-Wan Kenobi, what repaints, repacks, slight retools could they put in a 3 or 4 pack to make the new small figure viable? Do you think all the figures would have to be from the same entertainment? So no, I don't think all of the figures necessarily have to be from the same entertainment, although it kind of helps. However, my idea for this would be perhaps doing like an evolution pack, like they've done with Luke Skywalker and Anakin in the past. We've seen that Anakin one recently revealed that everyone's pre-ordered. They could do something similar for Leia. Now, I've just got a couple of Leias there for you, and I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that they use these ones, but let's just say for hypothetical, they could have the young Leia from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, then a version from A New Hope, perhaps using soft goods. That's why I've got this one here, just demonstrating the soft goods. So you could have that new Leia that they've given us, and that would be the way to give us the soft goods version that can then, you know, sit in the Falcon and all those kinds of things. And then finally, you could have one from the sequel trilogy. Now, the sequel trilogy isn't necessarily my favorite thing in the world, but I do feel that we are missing General Leia from The Force Awakens or The Rise of Skywalker. This one here I wouldn't bother with personally. I don't think she's even in that outfit for too long, and it's pretty amazing to me that they actually made that figure in the first place. If anyone's wondering what that figure is, if you've never seen it before, it's actually from the 3.75 inch Black series. Came out in what, 2014, 15, something like that, whilst the vintage collection was on hiatus. So that is what I'd go for, maybe a Leia Evolutions pack. That would enable Hasbro to get out that mini Leia figure. I'm not too sure how well she would sell by herself on her own card back. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you feel about that. And also let me know in the comments your ideas for potential Evolution 3 packs or 4 packs, whatever they might be. And also, don't forget to ask questions for next week's episode as well. Channel member Steve DeBursa says, hi BB, great video as always. Question for next week. When do you expect the next reveal? Will it be the New York Toy Fair at the start of next month? I'm hoping to see the Landspeeder, Han Solo, Old Ben and Chewbacca, and perhaps get an update on C-3PO too. As an extension to that question, do you anticipate the plan for 2026 to be revealed at the Star Wars Celebration event in Tokyo, or a display of the Cantina? I'm attending the Tokyo event, so I'm hoping we get some new figures and or playset vehicles revealed. All the best, Steve. So I'm not too sure whether they'll reveal anything for 2026 at Celebration. That feels a little bit too far out. Do you mean like their Return to Tatooine thing? You know, what's the focus for next year? Again, I think that might be a little bit too early in the year for that. However, I do hope for your sake as well that they do have the Cantina on display and maybe even some of the reveals from Tokyo to go with it. That's what I'm hoping anyway. I've got no doubt in my mind that there will be some really good reveals at Star Wars Celebration. They tend to save, you know, the really juicy stuff for the big events. In terms of when the next reveal is, that's actually going to be this Wednesday. We found that out at the end of last week. So you asked the question before that happened. That's understandable. But yeah, this Wednesday, tune in. Of course, I will be doing my recap video of the reveals, letting you my opinion on them and giving you all the information and things like that. So be sure to tune in. And whilst I'm here as well, Steve DeBursa, being a channel member, jogged my memory to thank Jeff Russell for leaving a super thanks on last week's episode. Thank you, buddy. Really do appreciate the support and glad you're enjoying the content. Andy Jurassic says, Bosk, love the show as always. My question is, back in the Legends line, they had votes for fan requested figures. Do you think Hasbro should do online polls for fan requested figures? I kind of think that they're leaving that up to the community now. Obviously, we've got Last Figure Standing and March Madness, which is happening right at this moment in time. And they look at those results, don't they? So we're kind of doing their work for them. I think the last time we actually had a fan vote was for the Dr. Aphra figure, and I don't really think that they got out of that what they really wanted to. So whilst us fans are doing all of these polls for them, why not take that data and then act on that? And if you look at, you know, the figures that have been released over the last couple of years, they do sort of coincide with fan polls, which is great. Primal B says, hey boss, question for next week. I recently saw that Crosshair had been added to the Yak Face rumor list. I'm relatively new to TVC and I'm super excited about the possibility that my favourite character may be coming to the line soon. How reputable are these rumours? What do you make of them? And when do you think he'll be released? Thank you and have a good one. Well, in terms of Jason from Yak Face, usually you can take what he says as gospel. Usually what he predicts and is on his rumour list usually ends up happening. Having said that, Hasbro can and does change things, you know, very, very late on. And I'm pretty sure last year he did actually have Crosshair on his rumour list as well. And maybe they sort of pushed that one out a little bit further into this year and it's actually happening this year. We'll have to wait and see on that fact. But, you know, there has been plenty of times in the past, and Jason will admit to this, that, you know, Hasbro do change things at the very last minute, and things that you thought may be coming, rumours that you've heard from various sources or however it may be, sometimes things can change. But in the main, Jason is the guy to look to for all of your TVC rumours and, you know, what's coming up. Channel member Dan Von Carr says, question for next week, do you think an episode 2 Slave 1 repaint is possible? I'm surprised they haven't done that yet, especially with the new Django. Well, 100% buddy, it is possible because they did do it back in, what, 2010, I think it was, 2011, in that Shadow of the Dark Side line. It was the Clone Wars version rather than the episode 2 version, and same colours though, it's Jango Fett Slave 1, and it was the one that came with all of the exclusive Clone Wars figures, including this awesome Bosk. This was the only way that you could get this Bosk, was with that Slave 1, which is a, you know, pretty expensive thing to buy just to get this Bosk figure. So yeah, I'm a little bit surprised they haven't reissued that one in the Attack of the Clones colours, especially as we've now got that Jango Fett. Maybe it's something they can do in the future. What I do know is I do feel that if they ever do that, it won't be anything new. It just will be a repaint of the one that we've got from the Book of Boba Fett and Empire Strikes Back. They'll use the same mould essentially. And, you know, it's a good Slave 1, so I'm pretty sure a lot of people out there would probably want that as well. RT2D says, hi boss, question next week. With Hasbro rethinking their approach to the retro collection, do you think they should rethink the packaging? Personally, I would like to see them remove the weathered effect around the edges. Plus, I would rather them have the large sticker removed and have a small retro logo in the top corner like the 40th anniversary. What are your thoughts? Cheers. So towards the back end of last year, Steve Evans did a bit of a teaser about the retro collection at an event in the UK. And he teased basically that new 6-pack that's going to be a New Hope themed. And some of the figures that are included are going to be ones that Kenner never made. And at the same time, he did actually say that the packaging is going to change very slightly in terms of the sticker. The sticker is actually going to be removable. You're going to be able to peel that off really easily. I know some people peel it off already, but it kind of leaves a mark, and also some peel off better than others basically throughout the line of retro collection. These ones are going to be fully peelable. What they're not changing is that weathered effect. I think that's something that they want to keep to make them distinguishable between those and the actual vintage figures, to stop people getting ripped off basically, which has happened, because you would think, how could anyone be so silly to get those two mixed up? But you've got people buying presents for people, they might not actually know what they're buying, and all those sorts of things. So I think they're going to keep that weathered look, but they're going to be making these sticker peelable. So 1 out of 2 is not too bad. Everything Clone Wars says, question for next week: do you think that C3PO will be the carded figure with the new Landspeeder? Well, first of all, we don't 100% know if there will be a figure included with the Landspeeder. That's just speculation on my part. There usually is these days, isn't there? Whether it's a playset or a vehicle, there's usually a figure that's included. Do I think it will be C3PO? I've got to say, I don't. I feel that it will be a figure or a version of a figure that we've already got, perhaps. That's kind of what they tend to do with these play sets, things like that. You never really ever get a 100% newly tooled figure in one of these vehicles and things like that. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe, just maybe, it'll get revealed on Wednesday. I doubt it. You never know, though. It might do, but they might save that for Toy Fair. Rish Outfield says, question for next week: every once in a while you refer to a figure either because someone asked about it or it's the number of this week's episode, and have to admit that you sold or can't find the figure. How much does that drive you crazy, or is it nothing you get upset about? It doesn't really upset me, but it is a bit annoying when I'm trying to find a carded version for that number for that week. Bomb Vindom here was actually quite easy to get to. This Leia here, though, I did have to sort of rummage around in my loose collection in like a tub of figures that I don't have space to display. So it is a bit annoying, but it's not something I worry too much about. Apocalypse 178 says, hey Bosk, wanted to ask for next week. I know myself and many others are wanting the Marauder and the Bad Batch to be the next Haslab. However, do you think we'll see any other characters from the Bad Batch anytime soon, such as Dr. Hemlock, Nemec, and Fireball, and the other clone rebels, CX-1, Gungi, and other favourites from the show, or just more recent media characters? Thank you. So in my personal opinion is that I don't think that they'll be releasing too many more Bad Batch figures or figures from the Bad Batch until we have the rest of the crew, because I just think it'll be a kick them while you're down scenario. It's like, here, have all of these characters from a show without having the main characters. So I really do feel that the next figures from the Bad Batch have to be the actual Bad Batch, Clone Force 99, and any other characters that go with those, I guess. But in terms of other figures, other characters from the Bad Batch, I just can't see it happening. We really do need the Bad Batch at this point. As you'll see from the March Madness bracket, all of them are up pretty high in that list. Now, as we've discussed on this channel before, we don't really know whether they're going to be releasing them as part of a Haslab with the Marauder, or if they're going to be drip feeding them out. The fact that Crosshair is on the rumoured list from Yakface suggests maybe that they might be drip feeding them, but we'll have to wait and see what they do. Damien Addington says, hello BP, your videos are my favourite Sunday shows. Thank you, buddy, I really do appreciate that. He says, great content as always. Question for next week: do you think we'll ever get the ultimate Death Star by Hasbro? I alone would like a giant Death Star that has all the features from both A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. Thank you in advance. So I know for a fact, buddy, that you are not alone in wanting the Death Star. I know somebody, a good friend of mine from SWTVC in Tyler, that definitely wants the Death Star. He wants that more than anything. And perhaps we need to look forward to maybe 2027, which will be the 50th anniversary of Star Wars A New Hope, as being the perfect time to release a Death Star if they're going to do that. I can't really see them doing that before then. And as you say, a massive giant Death Star featuring all of the scenes from A New Hope and Return of the Jedi would be flipping awesome. It really would. And the amount of figures that we have already in the line to go in that, we wouldn't really need too much else to sort of fill that out, which is a good thing. So I don't know whether they're going to do that, but I'm pretty sure the community will let it be known if they want them to do that. Let's wait and see what happens. The Not So Vintage Nerd says, greetings, Tim. Question for next week: a fun figure that I think would complement the Return to Tatooine campaign is an all-new Biggs Darklighter. Sure, it's from the deleted scenes or footage, but it would be fun to have with the new Luke. Speaking of Biggs, I would welcome figures of Gold Leader Dutch and Red Leader Dress. What do you think? Fun fact, I didn't know Garrick Hagan, who plays Biggs is also the tourist dad in Batman 89. I did not know that either. But yes, absolutely, Biggs Darklighter. I don't have that 30th anniversary figure to show you here. I can whack a picture of it up on screen. So they have done that before from that deleted scene, and you're right, with the new Luke Skywalker, it'd be pretty cool if we got an updated version of Biggs. However, I would prefer a pilot Biggs more than that version, because as you've mentioned with all the other pilots there, those are something that I would really like, and I would love for them to do like 2 packs where you get the figure and their astromech droid to go with it. So you get the pilot and the astromech from the Battle of Yavin. I think that would be a pretty cool 2-pack, and I'm 99% sure most people would think that's pretty cool, but to me, I think that's good. So let me know in the comment section below what you feel about that idea. 2 packs of pilots with their astromech droids. Django Camino says, enjoyed this once again. Boss question for next week. In the next few years, what is the likelihood of an Attack of the Clones 3PO, Geonosian soldiers, and maybe even a new Ben Kenobi from A New Hope, or possibly Kamari Vossa and Montrose from the Bounty Hunter game? I'm not too sure about those two. They seem probably a little bit unlikely. Good news for you is that Ben Kenobi from A New Hope is coming. He has already been pipelined, and from what I understand, he's going to be an all-new figure. He also featured in that poster from the German Comic Con in the Landspeeder, so we know he's coming. Hopefully he'll be revealed pretty soon. In terms of the Attack of the Clones 3PO, I feel the only way that we're going to get one of those that they could mix with the battle droid is if we get an actual new C3PO. So fingers crossed Hasbro going to be doing that. I'm not too sure how many more times I can ask or say that I would like a new C3PO, and he actually finished quite high up in March Madness bracket as well, so hopefully he fares quite well in the actual competition. Stephen Vasic says, hi BB, question for next week. Do you think we'll get an Imperial Armoured Commando in TVC on its own card, and why didn't they do a figure of the Sith from the Acolyte, the main baddie, but just lots of Jedi to make the most of the mold, I guess? All the best, mate. Keep up the good work, and can't wait for you to do a room tour of your collection. So yeah, you would kind of think that's the reason that they did all the Jedis. But to be honest, all of those Jedis don't actually share any tooling. So you've got Sol, Indara, and we've got the upcoming Yord. I think all of those are all new figures. So that begs the question, doesn't it? Why do we not have the Stranger yet? And I don't think even the Black Series has the Stranger yet either. Good news is that the Stranger was the runner-up in Last Figure Standing, and he is the #1 seed in the March Madness bracket that was revealed yesterday on the live stream. So he has got a very good chance of winning that competition. He's got a good chance of doing very well in 2 fan polls. I think Hasbro already know, really, don't they, that everybody wants that character, because even the people that don't really like the Acolyte that much, like myself, it wasn't my favorite show, I still want the Stranger. I still think he's a good character. He's a, red lightsaber wielding baddie, and I'm always a big advocate of getting the evil baddies into the line. They're the fun characters for me. Magic Book of Horror says, question for next week. Hey BB, do you think Hasbro will ever give Star Wars fans a newly released Darth Plagueis figure? It sucks that I had to turn to eBay a few days ago to get one, and my figure is currently on the way or may have already arrived by the time you see this. With the Acolyte figures recently released, it feels like a missed opportunity to not include Plagueis, but there's still time for Hasbro to do a proper re-release, especially in the Vintage Collection and maybe even the Black Series version, since we never got an official one. What are your thoughts on this, and do you think Hasbro will eventually bring him back? Too bad we never got a chance to hear Darth Plagueis' voice in the final moments of the Acolyte series. It's a shame that he was reduced to a background character, just standing next to a rock in a cave, looming in the shadows as he watched the 2 girls looking at the sunset. Then, before the episode cut to black, we only got a brief mention of Yoda's name from one of the Jedi. So yeah, I mean, this is why I've got my Darth Plagueis figure there. That's probably the version that you have as well. And in my opinion, they can't re-release this figure. It's got swivel hips. It's not a great figure. I mean, if you look at the soft goods as well, that is how not to do soft goods. If you look at how good they're getting at soft goods these days with some of the figures that have been coming out, some of the Jedis from the Acolyte have got really good soft goods. The soft goods on that Plagueis figure is awful. It's really hard to sort of keep on the figure. The sleeves are weird. It's just too baggy. It's just not great, basically, and they can massively improve it. and they can actually improve the figure itself as well. However, I do feel that I would like the expanded universe version, this version of him, rather than the one from the Acolyte, because as you say, you don't really get to see much of him there. He was a bit of a nothing character in that. It's a big shame, wasn't it? Of course, if there was going to be a second series, then you could imagine that he would have been expanded upon, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen. So a bit of a waste, really, and a bit of a weird way of showing him in that series, in my opinion. So if they're going to do Plagueis, then base it on the expanded universe version, please. Trey Rich says, another great video. Question for next week. With the Streets of Mos Eisley playset being the last playset announced and with it coming soon, what other playsets do you think we might get later on or announced this year? Thanks for all you add to the community, Tim. So I personally don't think we're going to get another playset released this year. I think they only kind of do one a year now, don't they, playsets, as far as I can remember. So the next playset would more than likely be 2026, and we're all hoping that 2026 is going to sort of revolve around the prequels somehow. So, I mean, there's loads of things that you could probably do, isn't there, for a playset for any of the prequels. I mean, just something as simple as Watto's Garage, or Garage, as you guys say, would be pretty cool. Lots of things going on in there. You've got pit droids, you've got a young Anakin that we need. We need Watto. So that's an idea. And then looking at Revenge of the Sith, you've got the Chancellor's arrest scene, you've got the Mustafar battle. There's loads of things that I feel that they could potentially make a playset out of. Having said that, playsets do tend to be sort of like indoors, don't they? They seem to be like a corridor or a wall, or a bunker, maybe. You've got the carbon freezing chamber as well. So yeah, but in my opinion, I feel that the next playset will be 2026. But then again, we don't 100% know if that's true or not. We've still got plenty of the year to go, plenty of reveals to go, and, you know, loads of new stuff to see. So fingers crossed. A Zilla says, hi BB, question for next week. With Star Wars Celebration approaching in April, do you think the next Haslab will be teased, announced there, or will they wait for SDCC later in the summer? So they might tease it towards the end of the reveals. They might say, you know, coming soon in the next few months, the next Haslab or whatever. I think they did that before. Pretty sure they did that before. And then, you know, the speculation was rife about what it could be. However, I feel that the announcement will more than likely be at San Diego Comic-Con. I think with the Cantina, they originally planned to do that, but then it got leaked by themselves, and then they had another Haslab with G.I. Joe, which coincided, and they didn't want to sort of have the two announcements at the same time. There's all sorts of issues around that at the time, but I think if all goes to plan this year, I feel that the next Haslab will be revealed at San Diego Comic-Con. I mean, you never know, they might feel that Celebration is a big enough event to do it, but I just feel with the timelines of when they reveal things and when they want these campaigns to run and for how long that you have to wait with them having your money for your product, I feel the reveal will be more sort of in line with San Diego Comic-Con, and then the actual backing window sort of ending like late summer. They might sort of give you 45 days this time to back it, but fingers crossed that we actually get a Haslab after all this talk about Haslabs. I'm sure we will. I'm pretty sure we're going to get one every year for Vintage Collection, because they like to build things around that, and it's a big talking point. It gets the community fired up. So I'm pretty sure, you know, just to keep the line sort of buzzing away, that they like a Haslab running at all times. Sai Kaiju says, hello boss, the question about what else could be added for the Return to Tatooine got me thinking. So question for next week, what do you think about a Lars Homestead playset? Obviously you couldn't do the whole thing, and the choices are either the kitchen dining room that in theory could be packed in with a new Aunt Beru, or the most likely candidate in my opinion, the garage, since it's a fairly pivotal scene in the movie. You're absolutely right, it is a pivotal scene in the movie, you know, him watching Leia's message and things like that while he's cleaning R2-D2. However, what I would say that goes against that is that Hasbro tend to like these playsets to involve a lot of characters. If you look at all the other ones that they've released, they tend to enable you to have lots of characters set up with them. If you're just doing Luke's garage, then unfortunately all you're going to have is Luke, R2 and C-3PO. Basically, that's it, isn't it? So in my opinion, that idea is probably out. I mean, that would be a good thing for like 3D printers to do, and I'm pretty sure they've done that already, to be honest. If I can find an image, I'll try and whack one up on screen. Lars Homestead's an interesting one because we have had that before in the Legacy collection. A lot of people don't really like it. I mean, it looks pretty good on display, but in terms of a functional sort of homestead, it's not great at all. And of course, as you say, if they did do that, it would enable them to give us a new Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen, which I feel are pivotal characters for Return to Tatooine. Whether they'll get to those, I'm not too sure, but for me, I really hope they do. We'll have to wait and see. All right then, guys, that's it for this week's episode of Ask Bosk Bounty. Thank you so much for everybody that left a question, and be sure to leave your questions for next week's episode. And as I said at the beginning of the video, please make sure you tune in on Saturday. It'll be at 10 p.m. GMT, 5 p.m. EST for my live stream where myself, John from SWTVC, Nick, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and my buddy Chris from Toys of the Jedi will be completing the March Madness bracket of 2025. It's going to be a lot of fun. Be sure you are there to check it out. Thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you to my Patreon supporters and channel members. As always, your support for my channel and myself is greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we shall see you on the next one.